First of all, my name is Shumo Wang, and I'm here I'm very humbled and honored to be invited to the First Parish Church of Lexington by my friend Omar and Anne. I am currently a MDiv student, a third-year MDiv student at Harvard Divinity School. I identify myself as a practitioner and minister of Confucianism, a tradition that has been the predominant spiritual tradition in China, Korea, and Japan, and Vietnam for a long time. But now, probably you never heard about anyone as a Confucian, right? So where are all those Confucians? We answered this question last week. We talked about what happened to Confucianism, the three gates between us and Confucianism, the Manchurian invasion, the new culture movement, and the cultural revolution. Long story short, basically, there are very few people now in China and in East Asia pursuing Confucian spirituality, and I happen to be one of them. It's not a family thing. I converted to Confucianism, or I become a Confucian at the age of 17. I started to learn the doctrine, the teachings of Confucius. So today, what I'm going to share is the essential teachings of Confucius. I say essential because it's really minimum. It's really just four teachings of Confucius. Confucianism is a tradition that is pretty unfamiliar to probably the audience. I want to simplify it, but not oversimplify it, but just present the most crucial things. Well, I want to make an announcement first that the thing I'm going to talk about is not the standard introduction of the doctrines of Confucius that you may be accessible in the scholarly writings in the States, or any popular readings introducing Chinese philosophy or Chinese thoughts or culture. This is let me just say that this is my version of Confucianism. Of course, I learned this from my master, and we practice it as a group, and that is like a manifesto to the modern world of like our understanding of the Confucian tradition. It's not like a objective description of what Confucius has taught, because Confucius definitely said numerous of things, 1,000 of things. And for us, for modern 21st centuries Confucians, what really mattered to us, what we want to build our lives on, what we feel that should be the base stone for the community of Confucians and maybe larger groups. These are what I'm going to talk about. The first thing I want to talk about is about the goal of life. What would be the goal of life? To be more specific, what would be the goal of a spiritual life? Let's read the scripture first. I try to always base my understanding, my reading of Confucianism, of course, on Confucius, his own word. So Confucius said, the master said, "He has not lived in vain who dies in the evening, having achieving full realization of the transcendent." Having achieving full realization of the transcendent. This is my translation. I have to make it clear. I also list another translation as a comparison, so that you can decide is my translation accurate or making any sense or not. So the translation this is the most popular version of the translation of the Analects of Confucius, translated by Roger T. Ames and Henry Rosemont. If at dawn you learn of and treat the way, you can face death at dusk. Pretty similar, but some keywords I didn't feel that it conveyed the spirit of this chapter. So he said, learn of and treat the way. What does it mean? What does it what is this trying to tell us? Learn of and treat the way. Well, the way means the path, the Dao. You're probably familiar with this vocabulary, this term. It means the truth, ultimate truth, the transcendent. So my translation is having achieving full realization of the transcendent, a realization in the intellectual term and in the spiritual term, even in the bodily term, that your life is embodying the transcendent. That's what I mean by the full realization of transcendent. So we often see people talking about the goal of their spiritual life. I'm from the Harvard Divinity School. So my classmates are all religious professionals, spiritual professionals. Well, they are going to be pastors, preachers. They will start NPO, like nonprofits, with the religious inspiration and serve the society and so forth. But I often, for many times, I heard them say, I go to the church, but it doesn't mean that I believe everything they talk about. So they go to the church because they like the atmosphere. They believe that the religious sector may contribute to the social harmony or a healthy individual life, to make good balance with other components of a society and individual's life. So I say this is a functionalistic understanding of faith, of spirituality. And it's all good. It's fine. It's probably true. They believe that, we're spiritual beings by nature, pursuing and maintaining a certain degree of spiritual life. Like every week, every weekend, we get together and do liturgy together and read scripture together, and it will definitely benefit other parts of our life. But is it what faith all about? Is this what spirituality all about? Is spirituality just something to serve the wholesome and the success of our own daily life? Is it something that can help us do well in school, in business? I see this kind of attitude, this kind of functionalistic view towards religion and faith prevailing in nowadays American society. Just from outsiders' perspective, that's what I see. I don't come here with that presumption, but that's what I felt here in the past 3 years. And we see people talk about meditation because meditation can benefit their health, their mental health, their physical health, even. We know that in Buddhist, what meditation do is to help you obtain the ultimate spiritual goal, to become a Buddha, to become an arhat. How many of our spiritual practitioners want to be a Buddha, aspire to be an arhat? So let's reread this chapter. He does not live in Wang who dies in the evening, having achieving full realization of the transcendent. The spiritual transformation has highest value in itself. Confucius is telling us that this is the highest goal of one's life. Once one achieves this goal, one surpasses the limitation, the dimension of one's material life. So that doesn't mean that, once we achieve the full realization of transcendent, daily life doesn't matter to us. It's the opposite. We are dealing with our daily life from a higher dimension. We are at our ultimate home and we'll even deal with our daily life in a different angle. I hesitate to say like better or more efficient. That would be contradictory to my previous argument, but from a different angle. Sometimes we see sages fail. They're losers. They got killed. They never get the position they pursued. They never got the popularity they deserve. but they have lived the fullest of their life. Confucian's martyr, whose name is Wen Tianxiang, he was killed in roughly 800 years ago. Before he died, he wrote a poem. It goes, "In truest suffering, I encounter grandest bright. In truest suffering, I encounter grandest bright." And also, there's another Confucian sage whose name is Wang. Before he dies, like he was lying on the bed and very sick, his student asked him, "Master, do you have any word for us before you go?" The master said, "My heart is full of light. I have no more to say." So often people come to me and say that Confucianism can't deal with the question, the ultimate concern about life and death, because you don't have an explanation of afterlife. You don't talk about afterlife. You don't tell people where people will go to after their death, and how will they go there. Well, true enough, we don't have a belief of a specific place that people will go after their death. But Confucianism indeed believes that people may enter eternity. They may enter eternity not just after their death. They may enter eternity right now, in this life, in this moment even, in this morning, in this evening. Confucius is talking about achieving full realization of the transcendent in terms of morning and evening. He used this kind of expression. Oh, I missed it's supposed to be achieving full realization of the transcendent in the morning. Sorry, I missed that part, in the morning. So this gives us a different angle to view our daily life. Are we striving hard enough? Are we trying hard enough right now towards that ultimate goal? Are we being spiritual enough? I think this question challenged me all the time. When reading this chapter, it challenged me. Am I trying to 闻道? Am I trying to achieving full realization of the transcendent? Often I find myself lack of the aspiration or lack of the true effort towards this goal, because I'm focused too much on my daily life, on school, distract me from the ultimate goal of achieving full realization of the transcendent. And Confucius, this chapter is challenging us and will challenge us continuously. The second message from Confucius is about self. It's about our understanding of ourself. The saying goes, 子曰,君子不器. So the master said, a noble person is not a vessel. Or I would say, ought not to be a vessel. A noble person here, please note it, is not about, well, often in the analects, it refers to like noble person, like people with superior social position. But often it means a lifestyle, a kind of human being that is admirable, that is desirable, that we want to become like that. We should be like that. So it's basically saying that we ought not to be a vessel. What does it mean? What is a vessel? A vessel is something that is made for a certain use and in a certain form. And do we feel like a vessel? Sometimes we do. Let's read, before I put my card on the table, let's read something from American scholar. His name is Herbert Fingret. And his masterpiece, Confucius, the Secular as Sacred, just a minute, here. So this book, this one is like, look at how thin it is. It's a small booklet, but it's a masterpiece in 1960s. It forms the fundamental, the basic understanding of Confucius after in the 80s and 90s until now. At Harvard, we still see professors base their understanding on Fingered's writing. It's very important. I highly recommend you guys read this book. It's beautifully written and it's very thin. It's easy, but it captures the essence of Confucianism. Very, very good. What's Fingered's understanding of Confucianism? In the analects of Confucius, man as individual, well, he's still using the binary term. He says man. We no longer use man, we say person. Well, as individual is not sacred. However, he is not, well, he's still using he. Please forgive me. I'm just overly sensitive about this at Harvard Divinity School because we just freak out when seeing people using he, man, and this. Well, he is not therefore to be thought of as a mere utensil to serve society. For society is no more an independent entity than is ceremony independent of the participants. The holy vessel, the altar, the incantations, society is human treating each other as human, or to be more specific, according to the obligation and the privileges of ritual, out of the love and loyalty and respect called for by their human relationships to each other. The shapes of human relationships are not imposed on a person, not physically inevitable, not an instinct or reflex. They're rights learned and voluntarily participate in. The right is self-justifying. The right is self-justifying. The being's gestures and words are not subordinate to right, nor is right subordinate to them. To be self-disciplined and ever return to ritual, that's from Confucius Analects, is to be no longer at the mercy of animal needs and demoralizing passion. It is to achieve that freedom in which the human spirit flowers. It is not a matter of submission, but of the triumph of the human spirit. Beautifully written, right? So I love this passage so much. But there's a question. I mean, first of all, what he said captured at least a dimension of Confucius saying that we are not utensils of the others. We're a sacred vessel, the holy vessel. A holy vessel means that we're in relationship with other human beings. That the relationship, the whole society can be viewed as a rite, as a ritual. And we ourselves is therefore made sacred. I have a question for Fingered. Then, are we just sacred for the sake of human relationships? The ritual is self-justifying, but the rite, is it just about the social relationships? Is it just about the accumulated social roles and patterns and norms? I would say this understanding prevailed in the 80s, 90s, and even now, when we read Confucianism. Another scholar I mentioned before, Roger T. Ames and Henry Rosamond Jr., they're from Hawaii and the University of Hawaii. They were huge in the 80s, and they understand Confucianism from the perspective of ethics, as ethics of roles, that people are constantly playing different roles. And this role playing is the essence of ritual. Our life is a sequence of ritual events. of this role playing. Is it enough for us? Is this all the truth about our nature? I would say that we should always return to the first message, that there is a dimension of transcendent. I see these modern American scholars are reading Confucianism in a horizontal dimension, in the interpersonal dimension, and only within this dimension. And when they're talking about sacred, holy, there is no content in these words. They're just using this word to describe human relationship. There's no truly vertical dimension in their reading of Confucianism. So what would be my reading? What would be the reading of my tradition, to be specific? I learned it from my master, not I invented this reading. So we are not limited, not formed in a certain way. As I said, in our true nature, there's a seed of transcendence. There's a seed planted by heaven of transcendent. Our true nature is transcendent. How can we define our true nature with any language or any specific understanding that is generated either by our own intellectual emotion, experience, or the eyesight of others, the social standard? A noble person, a person is not a vessel, it's not a utensil, means that we're not defined, we're not formed, we're not forged by others or ourselves. We are the formless, limitless, and ever-changing transcendent. What does it actually mean in our daily life? We often say, I'm just this kind of person, I blah, blah, blah. How do you know? Why do you have this kind of understanding of yourself? And you say, somebody, hey, Peter has bad temper. Johnson tend to talk in the mean way, talk in a harsh way in intimate relationships. How do you know that they are just like that? So this chapter, this scripture, urge us to view human being in a changing way, that we see the ultimate potential, the limitless potential of human being marching towards transcendent and constantly changing the characteristic, the deposition of their own, however stable, however essential they think those characteristics are to themselves. We often say that this is me, this is how I like, this is what I am, and I still deserve love. Yes, you still deserve love, but it doesn't mean that you are supposed to be like that you are bound to be like this. Human being in pursuing the full realization of transcendent can change at any time, can be transformed at any time. Any characteristic, any formed thing, any formed understanding can be cast away anytime. Even the good things. Even you think that you're doing a good thing, you're serving the society in a specific way and you stick with it, could be dangerous. Because it is making yourself in a certain way, a utensil-like way. So the Western scholar actually have very harsh critique to this characteristic of Confucianism, because it's contradictory to professionalism in the West. And professionalism was viewed by some sociologist and philosopher as the foundation of modern Western civilization. We're in a capitalism society, and we each have a profession, and we stick with this profession and be a utensil, be a vessel of God, the Protestant worldview, to live up to a specific calling. And we find that Confucianism is indeed different than this worldview. They indeed view themselves more than a utensil, more than a vessel. They're not even the vessel of the transcendent. They are the transcendent, we human beings. We're not being used by a higher form, will, or power. Interesting. I feel that I didn't expect this go this deep, but I feel that there will be a lot of questions, and it was. Let me continue. I can't stick. I can just continue to talk about this. I can talk about this for a whole day, but let's continue. The third message I want to convey from the Confucius teaching is that Confucius, or any individual, a human being, ultimately speaking, shall serve no authority. One shall not attach oneself under a certain authority. The scripture goes, one of the virtues of Confucius, serving neither the Son of Heaven nor the Princes of States. Very interestingly, Confucius gave this lecture to a prince of states, that like face to face. Like we Confucians serve no prince of states, the dukes. We don't serve you. And in the book of Mencius also said that the Confucius are the teachers, are the masters of the rulers. And if you want me to be your minister, you be my student first. So that's the Confucius view towards politics. I see this also a view for spiritual organizations, for religion to position itself, to place itself in a society. Through the history, we see religion subordinate or attach itself under government, under political power. We see this a lot. But then we have church-state separation, and we think that we're safe now. Now we can say that we're independent from the political power. And yes, indeed, if Confucius lived in the U.S., he will praise the U.S. for this, separate the church from state. But we continually say that it's very tempting for the church to be affiliated, to attach to political power. And we still see that danger in the society. And I see this chapter as a ultimate eternal warning for all the men and women pursue spirituality, that we have our own path. This is a path of pursuing the full realization of transcendence, and it shall not be attached, undermined by any political power. This is especially holds true in modern China and in ancient China too. We learn lessons from faith, spirituality be corrected by politics. We're not free from such threat in any society at any time. The last thing I want to talk about is that the Confucianism has a characteristic of facing the transcendent directly. What does it mean? The scripture goes, Confucius teaches no strange, violent, chaotic, or mysterious. Confucius teaches no strange, violent, chaotic, or mysterious, especially the mysterious, the strange. Those are the things that may evoke our belief, our faith, our feeling, our aspiration towards transcendent. By which I mean, we see something strange, something mysterious happen. We start to think about, is there something higher than what we see? Is there something supernatural? Something that I don't understand, that I want to learn more? This is a part of our reaction, a part of our natural reaction. We see a man walking in the field and suddenly healed some other people, cure the disease. And we feel like, is there something special about this individual? And shall I listen to him more? That's a natural way some religion would do. But Confucius never did that. Confucius never talked about that. He never criticized that either. He just doesn't talk about that. He refused to talk about that, actually. He himself, in his lifetime, there's no evidence Confucius like perform miracle or talk about mysterious. He only talk about virtue, ritual, transcendent, family, because this is what transcendent all about. See, transcendent is not about miracle. Transcendent is not about miracle. We could say that miracle in some traditions could be the evidence of individual that empowered by transcendent, but it's not never has it's never the direct essence of transcendent. If so, why can't we just face transcendent directly? Why can't we just adjust our heart straightforward towards the transcendent? Is the miracle and mysterious distracting us from it or helping us from it, helping us towards it? So I have to emphasize that Confucius never jump out and say, all those who talk about miracles and mysteries are wrong. They're lying. He never said that. Probably he won't ever say that. Because there are a truth in those traditions, in these claims. And there are goodwill in these claims, in this performance. But Confucius said that my way is to face the transcendent directly, without the aid of any miracle, mysterious performance. Interesting. So this is the very essential and the bottom line of Confucian tradition. We barely see Confucians in history past this bottom line. Like suddenly they start to perform miracle, they start to cure people. We don't see Confucians do that. And they're reluctant to even talk about that. But that is different than atheistic or materialistic worldview too. It leaves space, it respects the space for those who want to pursue the transcendent, approach the transcendent through this path. This is a Confucius standpoint. He himself never talked about it, but he never criticized it either. So these are the 4 core messages I read from Confucianism, from Confucius teaching. In short, Confucius asks individuals to set pursuing transcendence as their goal of life and never be defined with a specific social identity or a formed characteristic, ever changing, ever transforming, ever elevating, ever being cultivated in their spirituality. And as one who pursues this path, one serves no authority, one stay independent, facing the transcendent directly, ever. So that's a key message, essential teachings of Confucius. And I probably talk too much, and I'm happy to answer questions or learn from your perspective. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shumo. That was wonderful and intriguing, and many, many questions. I have a question. Did Confucius stress obedience in the family to the father, the older brother, to establish harmony first in the family, then in the community?
Well, this is a very interesting question. So obedience is complicated. When you're talking about you respect your father, does it mean you have to be obedient to your father? There's a difference between these two terms. So Confucianism definitely emphasizes being respectful to parents, because the parents, the family is the origin of one's very existence. Without a family, an individual won't exist. and and the family lineage, the family chain can be traced back to the far away, like ancient time, the origin of the universe, if you may. And respect your father, respect your elder brother too, is respect this chain of life towards the origin of the universe, and towards to respect your own existence too. And that, if you were talking about establish harmony in that universal sense, yes, the universal harmony is manifested in the family. But Confucius also said that if the father is not righteous, a son must insist in correcting him, not like in a harsh manner, but in a very mild and polite manner. Correct him and even argue with him, but remain respectful. This is a chapter from the classics of filial piety. Confucius, like the student asked, being obedient to my father, is that is that filial in your definition? Confucius, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Literally, that's the scripture. What are you talking about? If your father is not righteous, you have to argue with him. Literally, this Confucius word, literally. So I think it's complicated. Is definitely in the universal dimension. Respect one's family, respect one's father, mother, and to achieve the family harmony is very important for the society too. Yeah. Great. And also you use father and older brother. I have to say that mother and elder too, like elder in general, parent in general, not just the male side.
Thank you. Next question. Last time you said Confucianism has been criticized in modern times. Do you think the criticisms misinterpret Confucianism?
I say yes and no. The obedient type of Confucianism do exist. We can call it Imperial Confucianism. When I say that it's tempting for a religion or spiritual tradition to attach itself under a political power, that's true in Chinese history. That's very true in Chinese history. A great number of Confucians in history indeed fall into the trap of the power, of political power. And they have their Confucianism too. So, but the problem is that in Qing Dynasty, as I talked in last week, in Qing Dynasty, the Imperial Confucianism was the only kind of Confucianism there. The Confucianism that served no authority, basically, it disappeared. Why? You serve no authority, you die. There's no space for such a kind of Confucianism. You want to spread your thinking in local society, you can't. You can't even publish your book. So, and if you gather a lot of students and lecture to them, dangerous. So, practically speaking, when they're criticizing that kind of Confucianism, they're sincere and they're right. They're not misinterpreting Confucianism. They're just reporting it's just their reaction to the Confucianism they encountered at that time. But I have to say the true Confucianism, Confucius Confucianism, has never been like that. He said clearly, I served no authority. And he himself, especially in the last 2 decades in his life, he indeed he served no authority. He remained as a teacher. He was a teacher. And he changed society through teaching.
Thank you. So the next question, in the phrase, do not serve government, I think that also is do not serve authority. How is ownership or fair distribution of resources addressed in Confucianism?
not sure about what does it mean to like so the Confucius message is that you shall not serve the community. It's not like that. The authority, the
Mm-hmm.
government. So if the authority is righteous, is a government that is moral, you can serve, you can work with the government. But if it's immoral, it's not righteous, you serve no authority. You should serve not you don't serve this authority. So ultimately, what are you serving? You're serving justice. You're serving the right way. You're not serving authority. That's the rationale after this. It's not like that all the Confucians stay at home, not work for the government. And working for the government is a very essential way of changing society and serve the society. So we have to be aware of this dimension of this teaching.
And I guess, to continue with that one, Shumo, I wonder if the question about distribution of resources and an equality of ownership, would that be a Confucian ethic? Would that be a sign of justice, or is that not?
In that mean, okay, sorry, I just understand that. Interesting. I think Confucianism would encourage. So the ultimate concern is not capitalism, because Confucianism, at his time, he doesn't have capitalism. The ultimate concern is the government becoming too powerful to take the resource from the people. That's the main concern of Confucius. And he's always aware of that. The government has unmatchable power, unmatchable authority. If the government focus on gaining benefit, make more money, the people will almost definitely be get hurt. The government march, the people retreat. So the Confucianism is ultimately about anti-national capitalism. But to be specific about like the ownership thing, I don't think I don't have a clear answer for that. The main concern I read from the scripture is all about against the government power to the civil society.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. And so one last question, are the 4 essentials you talked about perhaps found in a similar way in Zen Buddhism?
Very interesting. So is there miracle and mysterious events in the Zen Buddhist tradition? Yes, a lot.
Yes.
Is there holy cure in Zen Buddhist tradition? A lot. And if you ask a Zen master, what's your rationale for all this? I can make up a very typical answer for that. I love this answer so much. To stop the baby from crying. To stop the baby from crying. Like we profane are like babies. We're crying for all this material needs, all this daily affairs. And the Zen master would say that I talk about all those miracle, mysterious things to stop you from crying, to stop you from thinking too much about that. Now, okay, you satisfied. Okay, now let's focus on spiritual practice. And Confucianism would view human being in a slightly different way. That we think that human beings are, or the people in general, are mature enough to surpass that dimension themselves. It's not our obligation to feed the need for mysterious. Yeah, I can find a better way to put it, but in Zen Buddhism, it's dialectic. it is a lesser dimension. It is a lesser thing, but there is a place for it. And I think there's no right or wrong for that attitude, for that treatment. It's just, who are you? And how will you, do you accept that answer? Or would you rather face the transcendent more directly? And the other thing is that about authority, actually in Zen Buddhism and in Buddhist tradition in general, they take a very rather respect the ruler, respect the existing rulership is one of the principles of the Sangha. And there's a reason for that. They think that the Sangha is ultimately higher than the secular affairs. So we don't want conflict with the authority. We don't want to conflict with the political power. While Confucianism often conflict with the authority, with the political power. Yeah. So this is also a different attitude. I'm not saying who is right, who is wrong. It's all about what we choose, which we choose. The first two are probably very similar. I think it's a fundamental rule for all the traditions who pursue transcendent transformation and believing that we human beings have the ultimately limitless potential in spirituality. Yeah, I think these are the two principles that we share with Zen Buddhists.
Well, thank you so much, Shumo. I really, really am grateful that you were able to share this teaching with us today. And I invite all of us to come back next week and think about what kind of questions that you'd like to share with Shumo next week as well. I know that this raises a lot of questions for me about Unitarian Universalism and their discomfort with the mysterious and things like that. So there's a lot of really interesting parallels that I think we could explore if we had more time today. But I just want to say thank you to everybody for being here today. And I hope to see you all next week. And we will put this recording up on our YouTube channel so that you can watch this again and share it with other people that you think might want to learn from the wisdom that Shumo has shared with us. So thank you all and have a wonderful day. Enjoy your day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I feel that if I have more time to answer questions, that would be lovely. I just talk too much.
Good. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.